All right. Perfect stuff. So let's quickly let's start. Shakir, you were there with us in the previous class. How are you? Are you with us, Shakir? All right. Let's see who else is here. Um, Lisbeth. How are you, Lisbeth?
I'm doing well.
That's good. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you had a great December holiday.
So how are you doing?
Lisbeth, can oh sorry, I didn't hear you very well there.
Yeah.
Good evening. Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button.
Oh,
Okay.
no, it's fine, Shakir. I'll get back to you just now. All right. So, Lisbeth, can you just remind us what is gender-based violence?
Hello.
Hi, Lisbeth.
Hello.
Okay, Lisbeth has left us. Shakir, you can join us again.
Gender-based violence, where it's mainly used where women and children get beaten up and abused.
All right. Can we expand on that a bit? Is it only women and children?
Depends which whoever the oppressor is, the opposite gender, obviously.
Okay, so gender-based violence goes a bit beyond that. It's not only women and children, but it's all vulnerable groups. So it could also be violence against the LGBT community. It will be violence against disabled persons, any vulnerable group that you can think of. That would be qualified as gender-based violence. All right. While I have you, Shakir, the next question that I have for you is, what is the governing legislation that deals with the topic of gender-based violence?
Did we do it last year?
Interrupt at this point.
Yes, Nick?
Hello, everyone. Just to clarify, exactly, gender-based violence is determined by the intention of the violence. So if part of the violence is because you are a woman, a man, gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever, on your gender, and that contributes to the violence, that is gender-based violence. So if a woman had to hit a man because he's strong and he should be able to take it, then that is gender-based violence. If a man had to hit a woman because she should listen, that is gender-based violence. If you have to hit a gay person to try and straighten them out, that would be gender-based violence because the intention there is to hurt based on the gender. With that, great job. Keep going. Thank you. Bye.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nick, for the clarity. Sorry, yes, Shakir, what's the governing legislation?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
That's fine. So it would be the Domestic Violence Act. The Domestic Violence Act. Leanne, were you with us in the previous class?
No, Pedro.
Okay, so I'm going to test you out in any event. The question that
All
I have,
right.
if you have been a victim of gender-based violence, what recourse do you have?
Sorry, I didn't catch your question. Just
If
repeat.
you
Just
if you have been a victim of gender-based violence, what
yes.
recourse do you have?
Is it like? It's sorry. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you a question first. Is it? Do you want me to answer? What would I do? Like,
Yes,
is
so
that the?
what recourse do you have in terms of the law, for example,
All
if
right.
you've been abused or if you've experienced gender-based violence?
All right. So it depends on how bad it is, but usually what I know is you can go to your closest government hospital if you don't have medical aid, for example. Then they can give you like a letter or a form that the doctor usually fill out, and then you take that form to the police station to actually press charges. I don't know if that's the answer that you want.
Okay, no, great. You did touch on it. Thank you very much. So there are two things that you can do. The one is civil and the second one is criminal. So if you have been a victim of gender-based violence, you can go the civil route, which will be a protection order, all right, which is where you approach the magistrate's court or the high court, whichever court is nearest to you, and you apply for a protection order to stop the person from either coming close to you or engaging in any acts of abuse or gender-based violence. Okay, and if they breach that court order, you will then be able to get them arrested through the police, and then it becomes a criminal matter. That is the one way. Second route is you can also go through the criminal court route, which is opening a case at the police station, of which then the perpetrator will get arrested, and then they will have to apply for bail and all of those things. So that would be the criminal route. Civil and criminal, just to note everyone, that you can do both routes at the same time, okay? So you can apply for a protection order and also lay a case at the police station. You're fully well within your rights to do that. All right, perfect. And then my next question is to Sophia. Sophia, so what, let's say you are a lawyer, you're a cop, you're a therapist. Basically, my question is, if you come across someone who has been, or someone who tells you that they have that they have been abused, or that they are a victim of gender-based violence, who is responsible to report it?
So in the case of an adult, it would be the victim themselves, or a concerned loved one. You could take them and have them do it. And in the case of the child, it would be the immediate caregiver, guardian, parent.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And just to add on to that, so anybody who works with humans, so to speak, so your therapists, your social workers, social auxiliary workers, your lawyers, your doctors, your nurses, and the list goes on. If you come across gender-based violence, or if you come across gender-based violence, particularly against a child, you have the duty to report it, okay, to the authorities, and let them then deal with the matter. All right, perfect. So now what we're going to look at in this class is, as we've already touched on it, the legal framework. Hi, Elizabeth.
Can I say something while you're
Yes,
still there?
please.
Yes, based on what you just mentioned now, it is in terms of the section 110 of the Children's Act. Those people that are responsible for reporting whatever abuse, child abuse.
Okay, yes. Sorry, did I get it wrong there? If it's an adult that experiences the abuse, do you still have the obligation to report it, Elizabeth?
If you get to know about it, I think you are also mandated to report, Pedro.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. So yes, the Children's Act allows that, section 110 of the Children's Act. Thank you so much for that. All right. So the key legislation that deals with gender-based violence, as I've mentioned, we have the governing legislation, which is the Domestic Violence Act. And the Domestic Violence Act provides a full list of what constitutes as abuse, okay? And that list is a very long list. It goes from verbal abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, physical abuse, stalking, harassment, religious abuse. The list is a very long and extensive list. And what the Domestic Violence Act achieves, or seeks to achieve rather, is protection for the victim in terms of a protection order. So if you're looking to get a protection order, the Domestic Violence Act and the regulations to the Domestic Violence Act will be the one that you would need to study. The Domestic Violence Act, just out of interest sake, so the purpose of the Domestic Violence Act is to make sure that as many people have access to the courts to apply for protection orders. And the Domestic Violence Act has actually recently been amended to show that you can now apply for a protection order via email. So what all the courts should actually be doing is they should be having an available email address where you can then get your application in order and you can email it to them, and then they will email back to you the court order or send it through to the sheriff for the sheriff to serve the court order on the perpetrator. So that is great news, especially for those who maybe are unable to attend the court. Maybe if they're living with the perpetrator, or they do not have a proper mode of transport, they can do the application online and send it through to the court. All right. Then we have the Sexual Offences Act, which deals specifically with, as the Act says, with all sexual offences, and it deals there with what you can do, the recourse that you can take there. We also then have the Children's Act, which deals with violence against children. It's a very extensive act. Social workers work very extensively with the Children's Act, so it's very important to know this piece of legislation. And then as social auxiliary workers, it's important to know how protection orders work, the mandatory reporting rules, and also what the rights are of survivors. I cannot emphasize strongly enough how important it is to know how protection orders work. I personally, from my experience as a lawyer, I've sat in court matters in court where the victim has been in a very, very bad situation where her application or his or their application has been dismissed based on a technicality or on a technical point. So it's very important that if we are going to do protection orders on behalf of other people, that we not only read the Domestic Violence Act and understand it, but we also read the regulations. The regulation sets out the exact procedure of how to apply for a protection order so that you can get it right the first time. And it's very important because these are people's lives that are at stake, and we don't want to be responsible if it doesn't, or if it goes south. All right, so what is the role of the social auxiliary worker in terms of gender-based violence? So the social auxiliary worker will be responsible, firstly, identifying and responding to signs of gender-based violence. Okay. Secondly, listening without judgment, documenting accurately what you're being told, to assist with safety planning, which is very important, and we're going to get into all of these topics as we go on. Supporting protection order applications, referring survivors to shelters, to the South African Police Service, and also to social workers, and also following up with survivors to ensure that they are safe. All right, so the scope for social auxiliary work is quite large when it comes to dealing with gender-based violence. All right, so as we're aware that if someone comes to you and they have been affected by gender-based violence, it's most, in all likelihood, they are going through a traumatic experience, okay? And the type of care that a social worker therefore needs to provide to the survivor would be trauma-informed care. All right. And the specific things that social auxiliary worker, as well as the social worker, needs to implement in order to be able to manage that space where the victim or the survivor is facing a traumatic experience. Okay. And the first one is you need to create a calm environment. All right. You need to create an environment that will be safe for the survivors, so that they will be able to talk freely to you and tell you exactly what the situation is with them at home and what assistance they would require. Okay. You need to also show them that you're trustworthy, so you need to be reliable and you need to be consistent in engaging with the survivors. So if you tell them, I'm going to send you an email by the end of today to explain to you the steps of a protection order, make sure that you're reliable in that sense. If you tell them you're going to give them a call, make sure you stick to that, because a survivor that has been faced with a traumatic event and that is suffering from trauma really needs reliability and consistency in order for them to cope well with the situations. All right. We also need to allow the survivor to have choice. So as much as And it's very important to understand we might have our own opinions on the matter, and we might think that no, definitely this client needs to go to the police station or anything along those lines. We need to understand that at the end of the day, it is the survivor that has control of their decisions, and that has to decide what they want to do in that situation. All right. So we can give them recommendations, suggestions. We can explain to them what routes they can take and what the consequences are of each route. But at the end of the day, we need to allow the survivor with an opportunity to be in control of the situation and to make the choice. All right. Collaboration is also very important. You'll be working together not only with the survivor, but you'll also be working together with other stakeholders. Um, Children's courts. If it's a child that's involved, you'll be working with the children's court. You'll be working with the family advocates. Um, you'll be working with counselors, with therapists. You'll be also working in the magistrate's court for if it's also an adult that has been faced with gender-based violence. You'll be working with the SAPs as well in those instances where it becomes a criminal matter, etc. So there's a lot of collaboration that you'll be doing as well as a social auxiliary worker. And then finally, empowerment. And empowerment is a very important thing because when we speak of the nature of gender-based violence, usually, as you've already mentioned, it targets a vulnerable group. And the best thing that you can do in that situation is to empower that vulnerable group. Okay? So they step away from thinking that they were affected by this because of their vulnerabilities, but rather by giving them the control and empowering them and reinforcing their strengths. That is usually how a lot of people take a stand against gender-based violence. All right. So the model that social auxiliary workers would follow would be the who lives model. Okay. So lives. So each word, each letter of lives is important. Firstly, we have, firstly, this is a globally recognized method. And the first thing that you need to do is you need to listen with empathy. Now, let me ask someone who I haven't asked before, Moya Bing. Sana Sinamela, can you unmute yourself? All right. Personality Lekaba.
I'm here.
Hi, personality. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. Why do you think it's important in these instances for a social auxiliary worker to listen with empathy?
Pardon?
Why do you think it's important to listen with empathy in these situations?
I suppose is because you need to actually empower the patient or the client instead of making themselves feel like a victim, feel sorry for themselves. You need to take them out of the pit that they are in or they found themselves in. You need to take them out of that room that they're actually locking themselves in and help them to go out there and be able to actually face the world and stand for themselves.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. You answered that perfectly. I don't even have to touch on that topic. Thank you. Moya Bing, I see you've unmuted yourself. How are you?
I'm good, and you, ma'am?
I'm very good, thank you. So can you tell me the second point, inquire about needs and concerns. Why is that important for a social auxiliary worker?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. As a social auxiliary worker, I think it's very important to inquire, to hear the story, to hear everything about the victim, how it did happen.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. I agree 100% with you. And remember, I had mentioned that you need to put the victim or the, or rather, sorry, I shouldn't be using the word victim. It's actually survivor. What we need to be doing, no, it's fine. What we need to actually be doing, why it's important to inquire about the needs and concerns, as I've mentioned, is we need to put the survivor in control of the situation.
Yes.
And that as much as we can put our or impose our ideas on them, at the end of the day, they need to be in control and they need to decide what they want that's best for them in the situations. All right, thank you so much, Moyo Beng.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let's see, Leanne van der Veste is in Leanne.
Let me know.
Why do you think it's important for us to validate the survivor's feelings?
Maybe it is just to let them know that we we care, and then I really don't know, to say that we care and we listen.
Okay, no, you're on the right track. You're on the right track, and also it also helps to by validating the feelings. We also make them more comfortable with us in our space. We make them more open to want to tell us what the situation is, and also again, it goes back to empowering them. So to validate their feelings, it is normal for a survivor to come into your office as a complete mess. I mean, when it comes to issues of gender-based violence, you can't expect people to be happy when they come into your office. They don't come to you with good news. And they'll probably be crying or they'll be quite distraught. And it's very important to, at that time, validate the feelings and explain to them that, you know, what they're feeling, what they're going through is perfectly normal. And that is a very excellent way of making them open up to you and to also feel comfortable in your space.
That
All
was the
right,
word
let's see.
sorry, Pedro, that was the word that I was looking for, validation. But
No,
you put
that's
me on
fine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Leanne. Let's see. Safia.
Hi.
Hello. So let's see. Why is it important to enhance the safety through planning?
Because if you have bad planning, it's very likely that they're just going to go back to the same situation and circumstances that caused them to be in this dire strait that they are in. So effective planning is vital. Yeah, and that can only be done through thoroughness. And I'd like to add also that you, as a social auxiliary worker or social worker, should use the time while you're studying to build a network of people that are able, stakeholders that are able to assist you when you escalate cases, stuff like shelters, children's homes, lawyers, social workers, know people in the local district where you are in that are involved in South African police services, the community policing forums, the CPFs, and so on and so forth. So yeah, when you have all those stakeholders and they are familiar with you, you built up a relationship with them, you've introduced yourself. If you're just starting out, it makes planning so much more easier because you are known in the scene, and the effectiveness of that plan is going to eventually lead the person out of their situation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. You hit the nail on the head. Thank you for that. So as Sophia said, it's very important to have a proper plan for the survivors so that they know exactly what steps they want to take and how they're going to take it. So it's important, just to speak from an example. I was called by a law firm, and when I came to the office, there was this woman sitting there and she was completely distraught. She was married for 13 years and her husband has been abusing her for 13 years. So it's been an ongoing pattern of abuse for a very long period of time. She was in the situation where she did not have control of banking. She lived with the husband. She had no access to his finances or to her own finances. There were children in the house and she didn't know what to do. And she was scared at the same time to also go back home. And what we had to do then in that situation was we had to sit with her, which took a long time, but we had to do it. And we had to plan how she was going to be safe. And I think that was one of the most liberating things for her because she realized that, there are options if we look very deeply. Um, and yeah, she's out of that situation now, which we're very excited about. So planning is very important. And also that, getting a protection order, getting the cops to your house, you need to have a plan because we're dealing with perpetrators that are essentially violent. And we need to then make sure that before the client leaves the office, that they have a plan and that they would be safe. All right, let's see. Tsepiso Lebese. I see there's two Tsepisos, so let me start with the first one, Lebese. You with us? All right, let's see the other Tsepiso. Tsepiso Mosia. Oh wait, Lebese.
All right, sorry, I couldn't unmute.
Oh no, it's fine. Welcome.
Okay,
So
thank
let's
you.
look at the last point. Why do you think it's important that we support survivors with information and referrals?
It is important to support survivors with information and referrals because as a social auxiliary worker, it's our responsibility to give necessary resources and services to survivors and also to give them opportunity, yes, opportunity and to promote social justice, I can say.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. Let me take it one step further. Tsepiso, if you want to try and answer this one as well. What type of information would you provide to the survivors? If you can just think of things out of your head. Or what information do you think the survivor would need to know?
Pardon?
What type of information would you provide to the survivor that you think that they would need to know?
Yeah. It
That's a
depends
bit of a
on, I think it depends on the type of help they need.
yes, that makes sense. You're very correct there.
Thank you.
Yes, so it can be far ranging. It can be if you think that or if they want to get a protection order, they would need information on how to get a protection order, what the effects are of a protection order, etc. If they want to take it through the criminal route through the police station, they would need to know how it works. And also general information like what is GBV? Are you a victim of GBV? How do you point out whether you've been whether you've experienced or been inflicted with GBV? So all of these little things are very important, and also referrals. Um, Referrals are also very important, especially for a social auxiliary worker. You would refer the matter to either a social worker or any other stakeholder that you deem would be necessary considering the circumstances of the matter. Perfect. Let's move on to our next slide. All right, so what happens when you have to respond to a disclosure? So a disclosure is basically the situation whereby you are talking to someone, could be a client, and then they disclose to you that they have been abused. Okay, it could be physically, it could be sexually, emotionally, etc. How do you respond to this disclosure? First thing that you need to do is you need to stay calm. Okay, so you do not make a scene, you don't gasp, you don't, you don't over exaggerate or anything like that. You're the professional in the situation and you need to stay calm. That is the first thing that you need to do. Second thing that you need to do is that you need to believe the clients. Okay, you need to believe what they're telling you. No questions asked, they are your clients, so you have to believe them. You need to thank them for trusting you. You need to then explain the limits of confidentiality. So as we already discussed, there are certain times where confidentiality has its limitations, where you would need to report the matter, especially if there's an issue of harm, if there are children involved or anything like that. All right, so you need to explain this to the client, and you'd have to record the facts only. Okay. What you do not do is what you do not do is, firstly, you do not blame the client. So you do not ask them blaming questions like, why didn't you just leave? Why do you only come to me now and not 5 years ago? Why didn't you just apply for protection order? So you never blame the client, okay? Because we need to understand that it's very difficult for a client to actually take the first step of approaching someone seeking help. And we do not want to chase them away by putting guilt, making them feel guilty, okay? You do not push for unnecessary details. So, for example, if a client has been physically abused, okay, we do not want to know, they must give us the information. And this is very sensitive information. So we do not push for unnecessary details. Okay. We only ask what is necessary. And then secondly, promising outcomes that you cannot guarantee. And this is very important as a professional. You cannot promise them, for example, if as a professional, they they ask you to do a protection order on their behalf. You cannot promise them that you will get a protection order for them. You cannot promise them that the perpetrator will leave them alone. You cannot do type of those things unless you can guarantee that it is indeed the case. All right. Why do you think that is important? Promising that we should avoid promising outcomes that we can't guarantee. Let me ask Shakir. This is a bit of a tough question. Shakir, why do you think it's important that we avoid promising things that we can't guarantee?
Why you ask me the tough questions? I can't give you an
Because
answer.
you were in the previous class. So I thought you might.
Because promising out, you don't know what's going to happen. She could just want to go back, or he could just want to go back. And if you say no, I guarantee you that things are going to be right from here, and this is what's going to happen, ABC, and things backfire, then the trust issue will be lost. The confidence in you will be lost, and they'll say like, you're just promising me. It's all empty promises.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. I see Lisbeth has her hand up. Yes. Lisbeth? All right, Lisbeth's struggling. Oh, there we go. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Can
you a
you hear
bit.
me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
I
Can you
think
hear
you're
me?
struggling to hear us, but we can hear you.
yes. Shagira just said conduct of social service provision. You make promises that you cannot fulfill.
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Elizabeth, let's try with you again just now.
Am I very good enough? Okay.
Okay, no, I'm struggling with you. Let me just put you on mute for now, Elizabeth, because I think your network, but when your network's a bit better, then you can let us know. But Elizabeth did mention there that the bit that we did get from her was that you're under the ethical duty to not promise things that you cannot guarantee. All right. So as a social auxiliary worker, you will be registered with the SA. Sorry, I'm going to get this wrong. The SACCSP Council, or the name of the council.
SACSP.
Okay. SA
SAC, SSP.
Yeah, there we go. SAC SSP Council, okay? And
South
that
African Council,
S
South African
SAC
Council of
SSP.
Social Services Professionals.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Yes. So once you become accredited, you will need to be registered with that council. And it is you'll then be under an ethical code of conduct that you need to adhere to. So if you do promise outcomes that you cannot guarantee, and it gets to the point where it happens, a client can report you to the council and you can then lose your license to practice. So it's very important. Okay. So Piso Lebese, you had your hand up.
Oh, hi everyone again.
Hello.
I wanted to add after Safir's answer. I believe survivors take social auxiliary workers or other departments and they come to social workers being vulnerable. So it is important not to promise outcomes that can be guaranteed, because as I come to you in need and I'm vulnerable, I expect you to give me help. So if you're promising things that you can't deliver or that can be guaranteed, then it triggers the relationship you have with either your clients or the survivors as well.
Yes, excellent. You're very much correct there. And also, it's just to add on to what you're saying, it makes the clients or the survivors also lose their faith in the system, which is something that we don't want to do. Because once clients lose faith in the system, then they don't report it anymore. And then they can't find any help. They do not know who to go to because they just feel like, I tried and I was promised something that I didn't get. So I'm tired of the system. And that's not the type of environment that we want to create for the survivors. Elizabeth, let's test your your network. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
There we
I
go.
don't know if I'm
Perfect.
audible enough.
No, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you. Sorry. So I just got the first part. You said there's an ethical duty, and then you broke up from there.
No, I just wanted to say, as a social worker, you work under the ethical code of conduct by the South African Council for Social Service Profession. So one of the ethics there is that you cannot make promises that you cannot fulfill. So you need to guard against that. And when you make promises to the clients, you need to understand that you are competent in what you are doing in your line of specialization. Do not promise that client that she's going to get a protection order. You are not working at a court. You don't know whether the protection order will be granted or not. So you can only explain to the client, I can only assist you until this point.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much. So the rule of thumb is basically do not make any promises. I think also even in circumstances that you are certain of, I would say just don't don't make a promise there. All right. I think just to be on the safe side. I think that's very important to remember. All right, let's move on to the next one. Now we're looking at safety planning. So this basically deals with an instance where you have a survivor that comes to your office and now you need to plan to do safety planning. Let us quickly ask, just to remind ourselves. Who did I not ask? Let me see. Moya Beng. I don't recall if I've asked Moya Beng. I think I have though. Moya Beng, are you with us? Okay. Who have I not asked? Personality?
Hello.
Hi, personality. Can you just remind us quickly again, what is safety planning?
Pardon?
What is safety planning?
Yeah. You mean the one that they've explained before, or
Yes. Yeah. So remember we said that we need to help them to have a safety plan. So
safety
just
plan?
words, yeah.
Yeah, I think I forgot.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That happens. So just to remind you, safety planning is the circumstance, and I'm going to come back to you personality for another question, so you can just hold on there. So safety planning is instances where you need to assist the survivor in enhancing their safety. Okay, so once they have explained to you the circumstances and they need to get out of that environment that they are in, we would then assist them in how to get out of that environment in order for them to put a plan in place. All right, and I think it was Sophia that mentioned it earlier on that this is important because once they have a plan in place, it is easier for them to have faith in the system, but also easier for them to stick to that plan and to get out of the environment that they're in. All right, so what does it entail? Firstly, identifying safe people or neighbors. So you'd ask them, do you have family around? Where do your family live? Do you have siblings, aunts, uncles that can maybe look after you or take you in for a few nights or assist you? What about your neighbors? Do you have neighbors that care for you or that can assist you or that are even contactable in this instance? Okay. You can even go so far as to help them pack an emergency bag. So tell them, okay, we are going to leave if the survivors decide that they're going to leave the house where the perpetrator is living, you would assist them in an emergency bag. You will not be packing an emergency bag with them, but you'll be basically guiding them through it. So you'll be telling them, okay, what documents would you need in this emergency bag? ID, ID is always the most important one. Um, Passports, medication documents, if you're on medication, your scripts, anything in those circumstances would be important. Medication and money, if you have any money, whatever money that they can grab their hands on, they should also pack that in the emergency bag. All right. They must then create a code word. So let's say, for example, the survivor is living with the perpetrator and you call them, they should maybe have a code word as to flag you, to let you know this is a safe time to speak, this is not a safe time to speak. Or if they are in danger, to create a code word. They can call you if they are in an environment where they are being abused, for example, they can give you a call and mention a code word, which then you will know, okay, the survivor is now in trouble and needs to be assisted. All right. Plan safe exits. Okay, so you'd plan on them. How would they exit safely? All right, with the least amount of conflict. Okay, especially if they're living with people. If they're in a relationship, how would you exit this relationship as safely as possible? How would you exit the house as safely as possible, or any type of environment? Okay. Then we also have the important numbers that will be accessible. So shelters, SAPs, family members, neighbors, which their therapists, their lawyers, their social workers, whoever is in the immediate line of care that they would need, they need to make sure that those numbers are accessible to them at all times. All right, so these are just a few examples that you would work with a survivor to do. And as you already mentioned, there would be various types of circumstances, and that's, you would have to apply whatever you need. All right. Working with children, how do you identify that a child maybe has been experiencing gender-based violence? And that will be part of your responsibility. You would need to recognize that the behavioral signs, okay? You would also need to maintain a child-friendly, non-threatening approach. I know that certain social workers set up their office spaces with, like a play area with some toys, some teddy bears, some nice pictures and colorful things, to make it friendly for the child, in order to allow the child to be able to ask them questions. Okay. Avoid leading questions. So do not ask them yes, no questions. I think that's leading questions. You can just I'm shocked that as a lawyer I don't even recall what leading questions are. But leading questions, you're basically leading them to an answer, yes. So that would be your yes, no questions. Do not ask them yes, no questions. Ask them open-ended questions. What happened? Where did this happen? How did this happen? Okay, in order to allow the child to give as much information as possible. In certain instances, you need to report the matter immediately if necessary, and you also need to provide support for caregivers who are non-offending. Okay. All right. Perfect. Working with perpetrators. So there are also certain instances where the social workers and social auxiliary workers will be working with perpetrators. In times where you need to interview them, for example, we need to do your assessments. You would need to engage with the perpetrators, and you need to handle this very carefully. First thing that you need to do is you need to understand that it is not your role to treat the perpetrators. So first question you need to ask yourself, who is my client? If your client is not the perpetrator, it's not your responsibility then to give them recommendations, suggestions, or anything like that. Okay. You need to maintain very firm professional boundaries with the perpetrators. No calls after hours, no emails after hours. And this is actually very important because I have heard of instances where perpetrators will call you incessantly. Because remember, it's a matter of control, and there are some instances where perpetrators try and control the environment. So it's very important to maintain professional boundaries. You need to focus on the safety of the survivor, and finally need to refer to perpetrator rehabilitation programs. All right, referral partners, as we already mentioned, you have your SAPs, you have your Tutuzela care centers, hospitals and clinics. If they've been physically or sexually abused, you would take them to, you assist them at the hospitals and at the clinics, shelters and safe homes. You would refer them to social workers, and also to community policing forums. There is a case study that I want to do. Okay, so I'm going to get to them now quickly. We've got 5 minutes left, so I just want to quickly zoom through this. Okay. Documentation. Firstly, as we already mentioned, we only record facts. We do not record opinions. We use the client's own words where possible. We do not use judgmental language. We keep records secure and we follow Popeye compliance. Okay. And we need to document dates, document times, and document exact details, because these documents that you're busy writing could probably be used to draft court applications or dockets when you go to the SAPs and in court. All right, let's quickly look at a case study. So we have there's Tandi. Tandi is a 32-year-old mother of two. They're the ages of 4 and 9. So Tandi is a mother of 2 children who are minors, okay? She comes to the community center where you're working. She says she needs help with school forms and food parcels. However, as she approaches you, you notice that she is anxious and she avoids eye contact. You also notice bruising on her forearm and it's hidden by her long sleeves. During the conversation, she mentions that she recently lost a job because she missed too many days. So she took too many leave days. Her partner, Spusiso, controls all their household money. And also the children have been acting out. So you notice that she mentions that the children have been acting out, especially the 9-year-old, because now he's fighting or he's a bully at school. Okay. She has not visited her family in over 2 years because it causes problems at home. And her partner often takes her phone away at night because phones cause trouble. And she apologizes repeatedly for wasting her time, which shows that her anxiety. When asked how things are at home, she hesitates and says, it's not that bad. he just gets angry when he's stressed, and I know how to keep things calm. While speaking, someone slams the door and she flinches, so she basically jumps from a seat. She gets a shock there. All right. Additional details: she visited the clinic a month ago from an alleged fall, and she says that her partner recently threatened to take the child away from her if she leaves. And she asks if there's something wrong with her because she's struggling with the relationship and she can't fix it. All right. So let's look. We're just going to look at this very quickly. Firstly, what are the red flags in Tandi's situation? Let me start from, let me see, whoever not asked. Let's see, Safia, what are the red flags that you can see from this case study? Safia?
Sorry. I'm here.
No problem. What are the red flags that you spotted?
So she's obviously traumatized. Her behavior and her reflexes are on guard all the time. Um, she has low self-confidence because she thinks there's something wrong with her, that she can't keep a relationship together. Low self-esteem. There's signs of trauma. And what was the other things you mentioned?
There's a lot of things.
She's probably been gaslit, so she doubts herself very much. And yeah, she doesn't seem to understand the seriousness of the matter that she's in. Although she's feeling it, she doesn't really. She's not very educated on the matter.
Okay. Thank you very much. And also the fact that she's dying also from her injuries. That is also a very big red flag.
Probably still in denial of the reality of the situation. She's trying
Yeah.
to make excuses and whatever. So yeah, and she's probably putting herself and whoever else is dependent on her in harm's way, unknowingly, I would say.
All
Because of
right.
ignorance. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Let's see, Moya Bang, if you can answer the next one for us quickly before we end the session. Just 5 more minutes. I'm going a bit over time. I do apologize. I just want to finish this case study quickly. Moya Bang. Okay, let's see. Shakir.
Uh,
All right, my next question for you
okay.
is, what types of abuse can you spot from this case study?
Physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, by threatening, by her being scared. Obviously, the physical will be because of the marks on her arm, things like that. And she's scared to talk, and she says things are okay. So she's scared because if she opens her mouth, she could lose her children. All these things.
Okay, and also, I'm not sure if you mentioned this one, but there's also financial abuse because she has no access
Yes, she don't have access to finances.
to any finances. All right. So what would you do? What would your first step be as a social auxiliary worker? Let me see who wants to answer this one. It's a bit of a tricky one. Personality. Do you want to give this one a shot? Personality? It's a Piso. This is the last question, then we're done, I promise. Tempiso Lebese?
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry. Yes.
No, it's fine. Did you hear my question?
No, I didn't get the question.
All right. My question was, what would be your immediate steps as a social auxiliary worker in this instance?
I think firstly I'll try to build a relationship with Tandy, the client, because Tandy has a lot of issues, and by the way she's explaining her situation, it seems like she doesn't want to report the partner, but at the very same time she wants to get help.
Mm.
So as a social auxiliary worker, I'll try building a relationship with her and give information on steps that you take if you're undergoing abuse, giving information on things that I can see, like that you can pick from the scenario.
Okay, perfect. And then also, like the slide also says here, you also have to think about her emotional safety and assess her immediate risk. Is she safe in this moment? Can she still go back home to her husband? So these are the type of questions or type of, not necessarily, yeah, you can ask them as questions, but these are also type of information that you would need to gather to find out um the risk. So also need to assess the risk. And thank you so much for mentioning the trust issue. You remember we said we have to talk to them, show empathy, show them that you care, and empower them. Ask her what do you want to do in this situation? What do you think is best for you? And also give information, like you said. Thank you very much for that. What is GBV? You know, in these type of circumstances, what can we do? So let's say, what would, now that I have you there, you can answer the very, very final question. This is a very important question because there are children involved. What would you say is what support would the children need?
Were you asking, Pedro?
Oh, sorry, I didn't pick someone. Okay, let me ask you, Sophia.
I could have just kept quiet like everybody else.
Yeah,
What
so what
support?
support would the children require?
I think moral support above anything else. Um, I don't know, Pedro, honestly.
Okay, we can also consider schooling, support in schooling because
Oh, okay.
their grades are now, they're not focusing at school, he's being a bully at school.
So maybe you can organize for a tutor to come after hours and sit with them.
Yeah, and also the fact that he is acting out could
Yeah.
mean that he's probably been exposed to trauma.
Yeah.
Um,
We organize
what
for a counselor, some counseling sessions at the local community where it's offered for free. So obviously mom is not in a position right now to pay for such things, seen as a luxury where it's actually a necessity.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. Let's end off the session, I think, on that note, because I see I'm taking over time now. But does anybody have any final comments that they want to give before we leave on this topic? My cat is also, look at my kitty. She's also bothering me now. Does anybody have any final comments? All right. No final. Wait, Shakir, yes?
No, I was gonna say all good.
Oh, okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We will pick up then from where we left off in the next session. Safia?
Yes, Pedro.
Mm.
No, I'm just saying bye.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Sophia will be handling this from next time onwards, and we will see you guys in the next session. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Pedro.
See you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Sipizo.